Welcome in to episode 2 of the Bleav in Twins podcast here on the Bleav Network. I am your host, Anders Pryor, joined by my wonderful co-host and analyst, Zac Tipton. Zac, it's great to see you to open up the week. Zac and I, a little bit before the show, were talking Olympics and how exciting it's been. And I'm really happy that this year it's being hosted in a place where I don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch the things that I want. I'd say 80% of what I've watched to this point has been the basketball, and usually they have one game at like 11:30 and another game at 3. So it's a nice and easy time to watch. I mean, I've kept track of swimming from time to time during the reruns, but Zac was just telling me about how there were some pretty important pole vaulting stuff that I missed, apparently.
Yeah, Mondu Duplantis, LSU, Brad just broke the world record in pole vaulting, and I got to watch it. I watched the entire thing. It was so fun to see them progressively go up and progressively just get closer and closer to the world record. And eventually the silver and bronze, who was a USA guy that won silver, but they couldn't make it past 6 meters, and Mondu Duplantis kept going, and he ended up breaking the world record, which was 6.25 meters. Just an absolute insanity. And It made me think, I'm heading into this podcast, this guy's pole vaulting 6.25 meters. Can the Twins vault the Guardians in a short amount of time? Or how long will it take the Twins to vault the Guardians at the top of the AL Central? And so that's what made me think of it. I'm like, can the Twins do that? But we'd love to see it if that happens. But I think right now I'm happy with where the Twins are at, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Twins I'd love to see try doing pole vaulting. I gotta tell you, I know sometimes with a lot of these Olympic stars, you kind of have to you kind of, to sort of appreciate them, you kind of have to look at just the medals or just the forms of athleticism, but the person itself, once you kind of get into the interview stage, is not super interesting or whatever. They're not people that you would want to really get to know that much outside of sports. I gotta tell you, Noah Lyles is one of the most is the most captivating one of the most captivating Olympic athletes of any country that I can recall. It's just I was saying last night, the amount of money that he's going to be able to milk out of Gatorade for the next decade is going to be absurd. So
absolutely. Yeah, Noah Lyles, one of those guys. That pommel horse guy from the men's gymnastics team is another guy that just seems really captivating to me, and seems like a guy that'd be really fun to get to know as well. Steve Nedorosik.
Yeah.
He seems like another guy. There's a bunch of guys though. Yeah. Noah Lyles though is what he did. In the 100 meter was absolutely insane, and to do that with a lot of people hate watching him. I'm not gonna lie. He's not the most well liked runner right now.
Yeah, I love him.
He's a world champion.
I think he's great.
Did you see the entire USA basketball team was there hate watching? Did you see that? Did you see the entire?
That's such an interesting dynamic between them and it's world champions of what. That's still such a great story. I mean, if the USA wins gold this year, maybe that kind of settles out a little bit. But I was thinking too, Zac and I are huge baseball guys, obviously, and I actually seeing the Olympics now and the optics of it and how crowded it is with all the scheduling and stuff really makes me glad that baseball is not an Olympic sport and that the WBC is its own separate event. Because I feel it would be so lost. And I think that for baseball with marketing and a lot of the issues around that, it's kind of good that it gets sort of its own thing, its own World Cup.
Absolutely.
So it made me kind of appreciate that a little more. Like the whole,
I agree.
There's the argument of like if you put it on like the Olympic stage, like do a lot of those like big stars from those other countries, like attract, American viewers like to the MLB. But I'm glad that it's kind of, but where like it's the WNBA model where you just have the break in the season. I'm glad that it's not. I'm kind of glad it's its own separate thing. I think now I kind of appreciate that more. But it's great to have you guys in. If you're listening and not watching, I am cleanly shaved. So hopefully
I am not.
Zach's not. He's not there yet. He doesn't have the same.
Next episode, I will be. Next episode, I will be.
Well, yeah, and you guys can watch us grow it out over the course of the rest of the season. But we have a good episode for you guys today. We're going to reflect on the White Sox series. We're going to do a little bit of previewing for the Cubs series. We're going to talk about Bailey Ober, mention a couple other kind of underrated guys as well, but it's some good content coming up. But I wanted to talk first about the White Sox series, which was an easy sweep. It was a sweep, Zach, that if you've seen any bit of social media, have now taken the White Sox to a 20-game losing streak, and which is pretty
insane.
It's insane. I saw like a graph. I think that the something about how like the Boston Celtics had like fewer collective regular season losses or like entire season losses than the White Sox have had on just this streak, which is absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
But what's before we like get into like the series specifically, because there's only so much you can say when you're just beating the neck out of a poorly managed team, but like it's kind of ridiculous because I feel like there were moments like last year where we kind of tarnished and trapped in, tarred and feathered the Oakland last year just because, there were more kind of historically easier to poke fun of brand in recent history just because a lot of what's surrounding them right now versus like, 2 years ago, the White Sox were an 80-plus win team. So they haven't maybe gotten the same kind of meme flacking that Oakland had last year, but this is obviously a far worse team just in terms of pace of, wins. But your kind of reaction to it, and it's just, it's pretty, like, they're bad because you just look at the rankings, but there's some underlying historical stuff here that actually really opens your eyes as to how terrible, I won't use some certain language to describe them, but how terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the point where it's almost like, are they throwing? Like, are they physically like just throwing games at this point? And it's hard not to really see that. And I'm trying to think of who is the number one prospect in next year's draft. And is there almost a little bit of tanking going on at this point because they know how bad this is? And wait, is Holiday's brother the number one prospect in next year's draft?
Oh, Ethan Holiday?
Is this Ethan Holiday's draft or is that next year?
I think he's 2026.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know. It depends on because he's still in high school at the moment. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure what class. I know he's coming up soon. I know that if he is not this upcoming class, I know that 2026, I think, is his latest. He'll be able to go until he gets to college. But I mean, he's not that far behind from Jackson, so maybe.
Well, I know Ethan Holiday is the consensus number one pick in almost every single things ever. So, but I don't think it's this. I don't think it is this yet. I think you're right. So I'm trying to think of who would be that. Who they're like, what they would like be getting an advantage of like losing this much. But I just think this team is so bad. Like I just think like they have Garrett Crochet, and they're only letting him go like 5-6 innings. Like I think he only pitched 5 innings in the Twins game against the Twins, and he had like 1 run allowed, and then the bullpen blew up like it usually does. I mean, it's so bad how bad this team is from top to bottom that it's almost like hilariously funny to watch.
I don't even. I was talking to someone. I'm looking at the box score of the game. I mean, there's only one. There's only one hitless perform. No, two. Yeah, the only two hitless people for the Twins were Jeffers and Margot, who were the pitch hitters. Everyone that opened the game in the lineup got at least one hit. I think, like, I was talking about this with someone a couple of days ago. Like, for the White Sox, like, I don't understand really what the free agency, like, unless management changes, like management, like on the floor management. I don't know what the selling point is, because you can't say it's Chicago, like the city, because it is the Cubs. With the Marlins, at least at the bare minimum, you can say, oh, we were injured, and, a lot of those guys are going to be back, and we have a really consistent, proven, player development system. For the Angels, you at least get to pitch the market to them. And at the bare minimum for the Rockies, who I would actually argue for the past couple of years have been ran even more poor than the White Sox. At least if you're a hitter, you can make the claim, or at least the selling point, that you can juice your stats a little bit. And even if it's unspoken, I don't know what the selling point is for like a free agent for the White Sox. I don't think I can cogently articulate a single one. Am I missing something?
By the way, I just looked this up just to be clear. I'm sorry, this is off topic a little bit, but I looked it up.
Yeah.
The White Sox, because of their market, can't get a pick in next year's draft higher than 10. So they will not be able to have a top 10 pick next year in the draft because of their market. And so they are physically not. This is just absolute insanity. Sorry, re-ask your question again. My bad.
No, it's fine. No, I mean, that's it. Excuse me. I'm reaching over here for a quick technical thing. Got to make sure that my device is fully plugged in. Sorry there if the mic sounded weird for a second. But no, I mean that. Yeah, like there's the element of being stuck, and then they don't have like a selling point as a franchise. Like
no.
Agents.
I look at it like also like not to mention like they have a coach that is 88 and 105 in 2 years, and they haven't fired him yet. I'm actually a little surprised they haven't fired him yet.
No.
And not to mention, like they have no really high level prospects. I mean, if you look at the MLB top 100 prospects list,
Olsen Montgomery, I think it's kind of weird. Like if you look at their prospect rankings,
they have Colson Montgomery and Noah Schultz, who are 16 and 18, but besides that, I mean, they don't have another guy in the top 70.
Mm-hmm.
Hager Cuero is the only other guy who's at 71. Is the only other guy in the top 100. So they have 3 top 100 prospects, 2 top 20, which is good. 2 top 20 is not bad, but it's also like, I don't know. They don't really have a future.
Yeah.
And it's hard to look at their team and say they have a future.
Right. No, I mean, I understand the whole thing of, Crochet kind of demanding an extension. I understand why that might make you a little like shaky on things, but you have to trade Robert. Like you have to. Like there are so many teams like in the NL. Like if you want to trade him to the AL, which is fine. In the NL, like the valley of teams in the NL whose record is just good enough to where you can convince them to be where they can either you can convince them or they can convince themselves to be buyers. Especially if given the opportunity to receive a caliber of player like him is huge. There's like 7 of them. Like you're going to sit here and tell me that like the Pirates would have not who have an excellent farm system would have not given you several ready now bats in exchange. Like it's ridiculous. So that the Crochet thing, I understand. And, they did their job with trading Fetty, etc. But you gotta you need to. That's the big punch to juice the system that you need to make, and they failed. They just failed. It's kind of embarrassing, if you ask me.
Like, I'm looking at their team now, like, and it was like a top prospect for me, a team that's like gonna be a top prospect for me, or a team that's like has a future, has multiple guys on their roster that's probably like 22, 23 years old, even 21 possibly, that are gonna be future players for you. The
Right.
youngest player for the White Sox is 24 on the entire team.
Yeah.
That's the youngest player. They have 3 guys that are 24, and that's it.
Right.
So for that's just like they have no one that can be like that future for them.
That's the thing. So like for the Royals, and I know we're kind of dancing around for the Royals, like last year, I mean, this past season, they made a lot of really shrewd and smart veteran signings, but last year, the team that they had outside of Salvador Perez was young, and those reps that they got for both their super high level guys like Bobby Witt and even some of their other lesser known younger players, they got really valuable reps that they took into this year, and then the front office complemented it with unsexy yet cognizant and smart investments. Like, that's the thing, is that this is not the sort of young development, valuable reps, getting the rust off, forming this team into shape kind of mold that the Pirates and the Nationals have kind of taken over the past couple of years. Like, they're just bad outside of Ober. It's just for the batting. It's just bad players. Like, I never thought that this was a sentence that I could ever mutter, ever in my life. But they're a worse version of the Angels, right? That, which is such an absurd sentence to say. But so obviously this Twins kind of beat down, right? Where, scoring double-digit runs twice in 3 games is very unsurprising. I think is there a game here of this series, Zach, that is the most kind of outstanding to you? I know that you wanted to highlight.
Yeah, I think for me, the most outstanding one was the one they won against Garrett Crochet in the second game there. And listen, they got that homer. They got early. They actually were down early, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They were tied 2-2 in the 6th. And then Garrett Crochet comes out of the game. I think Garrett Crochet came out of the game after 5. Garrett Crochet only lasted 4 innings for them. This is still insane to me. Garrett Crochet had 77 pitches through 4 innings and only allowed 1 run, and they took him out of the game. Like, what is that managing, first of all? Secondly, and then they put in, and then of course the bullpen comes in, and the Twins score 4 runs in the 7th and 8th innings combined and take a 6-2 lead and hold it down. I think for me, this was also a big game because this was like Pablo Lopez gave up a couple of 2 bad hits in like early innings and then settled down with 7. And oh no, is this I might be wrong here. Yeah. I'm wrong. Sorry. This was Bailey Ober's game. This was Bailey Ober's 8th straight quality start. He wins 7 innings, 2 earned run, 7 strikeouts. Yep. I mean, this is Bailey Ober, excuse me. Bailey Ober. And then you have Griffin Jax and Yohan Duran and a sold-out Target Field crowd.
Yep.
Going absolutely nuts because Yohan Duran's entrance is one of the best entrances in baseball. And it's a really – and this was the one game where Royce Lewis didn't really go crazy, but he didn't have to. This was the Austin Martin Brooks Lee game. This was Ryan Jeffers had a homer. Max Kepler had a homer. Willie Castro had a 2-run single. In the 8th. That was the one where Willie Castro had a 13-pitch at bat that he turned into a 2-run single. And one of the best at bats I've ever watched. So for me, that was a game.
Huge shout out to Griffin Jax,
Yeah.
who I think has slowly and quickly, simultaneously somehow, over the course of the year, has turned into arguably the most underrated and under-discussed reliever in baseball.
I agree. I agree here, and
the first.
and I really, and if, I don't know if I can show it here because I think we need to keep this on the screen. But if you guys have a chance, go look at Griffin Jax' baseball savant page.
Yep.
I implore you, like, if you want to see one of the greatest baseball savant pages of all time, go look at Griffin Jax' baseball savant page. It is absolutely breathtaking, and it makes you wonder, and it makes you actually curious, who is really the better reliever in between Griffin Jax and Yohan Duran? There is a real question about it because those two are so good that there is a legit argument to say Griffin Jax is a better reliever than a better pitcher than Yohan Duran.
What makes Griffin Jax so cool is how so you look at a pitcher like Clay Holmes, the closer for the Yankees, who has a very similar kind of like, excuse me, got that seltzer burp just now. I'm not doing Celsius today. I'm doing an unflavored polar seltzer. If you look at Clay Holmes, who has a lot of that very similar like sweeper slider combination stuff that Clay Holmes has. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Zach, can you? Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something. Excuse me.
No, I wasn't. Sorry. No.
You're good. A lot of who employs a lot of the same sweeper slider stuff that Clay Holmes does, and Jack's very similar repertoires. Clay Holmes does not get hit very often, but when he does, he gets hit really hard, and a lot of his mistakes leave the ballpark. For Jax, same thing with Holmes, doesn't get hit hard a lot. If you look at the savant, a lot of their whiff rates and chase, their whiff rates and their K rates are very similar. But a lot of the stuff that when Jax does get hit, it's not hit super hard. His barrel percentage and his hard hit percentage are both, barrel percentage 72%, 72nd percentile, hard hit percentage 82nd percentile. Now his ground ball rate is comparable to Holmes. His is at 80%, but his mistake. He doesn't make many mistakes, and when he does make a mistake, it's not that comparable. And he has that like perfect stuff where like
he's only allowed 3 home runs all year.
Yeah, exactly.
Griffin Jax is only allowed 3 home runs all year. And they're not off the same pitch either. One of them is off the sweeper, one's off the four-seamer, one's off the changeup. So it's not like one pitch can get hit hard. Every pitch is so good in Griffin Jax' repertoire.
You mentioned like the Duran and Jax like gap not being that big. Like we talked about like last episode how about this Twins bullpen has a very clear identity, which Duran is kind of like the anchor of that, where his whole thing is basically, I'm just going to throw this cutter 103 miles an hour, like good luck, and like using like the cutter and the four-seamer, like. And
he has a nasty slide. He has a nasty slider as well to go with it.
Jax is very similar too. It's like Jax has the sweeper, which tops out at 84, which is absurd. His fastball is not as comparable, which, his tops out at about 100. I don't think we've seen him get to 101.
I don't think he's at 100 yet this year. Yeah, well, he's at 100. Well, I think he's at 100 a couple times this year. That's his max.
But the thing that really impresses me the most are the changeup, which tops out at 96, and then the curveball, which he doesn't throw a lot, but it gets to 90 when he does. And so he has that super unique movement and velocity combination that you usually see from, closers. But with Duran there it's hard to surpass just because of the top speed. But shout out to him. Really one of the most underrated setup mans and setup guys and just relievers period in baseball. And in the first 2 games of the series against the White Sox had two strikeout 1 inning performances.
Yeah,
Really, so
he's been that good for a while. I'm gonna pull up his game log here really quickly as I can. But I think I have it. I don't remember where it's at. But he's been so good for just he's been so good for so long this year, and his mistakes are so rare at this point. Like last year he struggled early in the year where he was struggling early. This year he's rarely struggled. He's had a couple of times where he's blown a save, but that's been very rare this year. Like, for example, he's only had 2 games since June. He had 3 games since June 13th where he's given up a run. So in almost 2 months, he's given up 4 earned runs. And one of those was against Milwaukee where he allowed a 2-run homer. And that was just how it was. So that was but anyway, so Griffin Jax agreed. I think I've tried so long to kind of hype up Griffin Jax at this point because he's just so incredible. But it's not just Yohan Duran and Griffin Jax, right?
Yep.
This year specifically, go look at Jorge Alcala's Baseball Savant page. Go look at Cole Sam's Baseball Savant page. Cole Sam's is a really interesting story. Last year, he was the 26th man on the roster. He was that last pitcher that we only use once every 2 weeks, but he kept a roster spot because we really didn't have anything to bring up for him, so he's kept a roster spot for so long. He pitched once every 2 weeks, and this year he's become our 4th best pitcher and has basically become our high leverage 6th, 7th inning guy as well. So he's just his jump this year has been incredible. And then Jorge Alcala is another guy who in 3 straight seasons before this year has not been able to stay healthy. I think he's pitched maybe 20 combined innings in 3 seasons. And this year he's able to stay healthy. He's been our number 3 reliever. That's been who he has been. Jorge Alcala is a guy that was 4 years ago was one of our top prospects and was expected to be a closer for us. He was supposed to be one of our closer guys, but because of all his injuries, he never reached that. But if you look at his Baseball Savant is awesome. He doesn't get a lot of chase, and his walk percentage isn't great, but his fastball velo, average exit velocity, xERA, xBA, he has a 99%. He's at the 99% percentile in hard hit percentage. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so Jorge Alcala is another guy. Our entire top 4 of that bullpen deserves so much credit for what they've been able to do.
Yep.
And then the last guy I want to bring up on underrated that I've been excited about, and I was talking to Andrew about this earlier, Bailey Ober. I mentioned him earlier in the show a little bit, but Bailey Ober has been a huge lifeline for us this year in the starting pitching. When Pablo Lopez has struggled, and when Joe Ryan has even struggled a couple of times, Bailey Ober hasn't.
Right. So there was at the very beginning of the year, in the baseball community, and then also, but even more specifically in the analytics community and the fantasy community, Bailey Ober was a big dark horse. If someone had to say who's your dark horse, Cy Young finalist, someone who could finish top 3, it was him because of the extension and I think it's a little easier just because of build and there are only so many things about your physical body that you can control, right? So the extension we knew was going to be there, and then he doesn't throw especially fast for his extension, but because for someone of his kind of stature, but
that's also improved.
Right.
In 3 years, 3 years ago when he first came up, he was throwing like 89, 90 with his fastball, and now he's throwing 94. So he has improved that a lot.
Sure. He does. I want, like, he is a true, like, 4-pitch pitcher, like changeup, cutter, slider. Like, it's all there and it's all real and there's all great movement on it. And none of them are especially fast, but like the velocity has improved. I also, but the extension that he has, a lot of his strikeout rates have been great, and the numbers say that, and the eye test says it as well. And just in terms of like swing and miss broadly, and someone who is able to throw that many movement-based pitchers like that well, when you add that extension, because usually guys like would have that much extension, like you think of like the Paul Skeens kind of model where he's super tall like Bailey and he throws something like at 101, and that creates, X amount of fractions of seconds less time for someone to react, which is really valuable when you're trying to go for, when you're trying to build through, a 6-inning, kind of game log. But for him, it's kind of this thing where he has the extension, and not only does he not only have the kind of above average, firmly above average velocity, but it started out below average. And, you said it's kind of ticked up, but really interesting pitcher just to watch on an eye test perspective. But he's been really great. Has he lived up to if you ask people if he's lived up to the hype, it depends, because there's a big kind of this nerdy community of baseball guys who were obsessed with him going into the year. I know yourself included, you were very high on him. I was high on him too, but you were much earlier on it than I was.
Yeah.
But I think to that, within that group of people, he's totally lived up to what people were expecting of him. This is, I think, the high end of his range of outcomes.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's like Bailey Ober. First off, let's talk a little bit about Bailey Ober's story. For those of you who don't know Bailey Ober, Bailey Ober came onto the scene. I think it was he came into the majors in 2021 when the Twins were at their lowest. Like, we were at our lowest point. We were bringing up guys to start. For example, our starting rotation at that time included Joe Ryan. Griffin Jax was in our starting rotation, who we just talked about. He's now one of our best relievers. He was in our starting rotation. Bailey Ober and other guys, I can't remember their names because they were so bad. We had like one of the worst rotations in baseball, and Bailey Ober was part of that, and he was kind of the top of that. There was Joe Ryan and him, and a lot of people expected Bailey Ober to lose his starting spot. A lot of people were like, "This guy's not gonna be a future for the Twins. Like, he's only here now because we have no one else. He will not be a future for the Twins, and they didn't see him that way." So what did he do? He went to Driveline, and as you obviously know about Driveline, a lot of people know about Driveline now because it's become so big. But he and Griffin Jax were two of the first Twins to really go to Driveline and make Driveline a big thing in their lives. Like, Driveline was huge for Bailey Ober, and he was one of the first guys to really use it to his advantage, and it kept getting better. And so, but the issue with him also was injuries, right? His first two seasons, specifically 2022, he started out the year okay, pretty good actually, but he got hurt and was almost out the entire rest of 2022. And so I feel came in 2023, like, is he going to be that guy? So he didn't even make the team in 2023. He started in AAA, immediately got called up, like immediately almost, because Tyler Mahle got hurt so early that he immediately got called up. And he was our third best pitcher throughout the entire season, and it wasn't really close. He was he was our third or fourth, depending on how you want to put him or Joe Ryan last year. I would actually put Bailey Ober ahead of Joe Ryan last year in terms of that, but it was between those two.
Right.
But Bailey Ober, and not to mention last year, for the first time in his career, by a long shot, he had like 100 and I forget his exact amount, but I think he had like 100 and Do you remember? I should have. I think I have it here, but there was a what was it? I thought I had it. I don't think I have it now. But he had like 130 innings or something like that. Like he reached like the most innings he's ever had in a major league career was last year when he reached that. The injuries didn't affect him that much, and he's also this year again he's not gotten injured as well either. So he's just a fun guy to watch. And now, obviously, the main thing I was bringing. Oh, he reached 144 innings last year. Which was the most in his career by far. And this year he's already 122. And we're only like just over halfway through the season. He's already 122. Right. So Ober's another guy that's just really awesome for me. And obviously the reason we're bringing him up now is because he just had his 8th consecutive quality start. And that is the first time a Twins pitcher has 8 consecutive since Phil Hughes in 2014. So it's been a decade since he got a pitcher with 8 consecutive quality starts. Bailey Ober just hit that. Last thing with Bailey Ober here is, he's been, what was I going to say? His strikeout numbers have gone up. He's been so huge in getting the innings as well. There's a case for him for being our ace right now. And I think at this point, it's hard to not say he isn't our ace at this point. With how rough Pablo Lopez has been struggling. I feel like I had something else I was going to say about Bailey Ober, but I kind of blanked out on it. But Bailey Ober is just, what he's done has been incredible. And I'm very happy that he's figured it out. And he is doing what he really wants, he's been trying to do for a while. And then he's turning in this type of season. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Bailey Ober versus the Royals has like a 19 ERA. And versus every other team in baseball, he's like a 2.4 ERA, like a 2.08 ERA or something. It's something like that. But the Royals have he has like a 19.4 ERA versus the Royals. He physically cannot pitch versus the Royals, but everyone else he can. Yeah, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball when he doesn't face the Royals. That's how it's
yeah. There's a lot of weird ones like that where they have these super consistent quality start after quality start pitchers who have these ballooned 12 or 13 ERAs against certain teams.
Okay, there it is. Bailey Ober versus KC, 19.89 ERA versus everyone else 2.8. It's just Kansas City has single-handedly brought his ERA to the threes where I think it is right now.
Yeah, I think he's currently sitting at 3.69. 3.69 for the year. But no, he's been one of the more under-discussed names in baseball, I think. Excuse me. Someone that if would be, I think because of the market that he plays in, I think certain words are used to describe him. I think, right now, I think gadgety would be an appropriate word to use to describe him. I think it's an accurate description. I think that is what makes him good in a lot of ways. I do think that if he played for the Dodgers or the Astros, then we would not be using that word. I think we would more so be focusing in on his physical specimenship and things like that. Because I think for a small market team, if you get a pitcher who, has that, where physical specimenship is a part of your game, and it's a good part of your game, you kind of need to be at the Paul Skeens level to get that kind of discourse around you. But he has been very underrated throughout
Absolutely.
the year. I want to let's talk about this. Let's talk about this upcoming Cubs series. It kind of sucks because I love Simeon Woods Richardson so much. I think I love how I really like the way that he keeps the ball in the ballpark. I think that he is essentially one of the perfect pitchers for a place like Target Field. And I think that this kind of, up and down, largely up and down, but also largely underperforming Cubs offense, would be like the perfect kind of game for him to mold himself back into it after a not so great start against the White Sox, only going 4 innings and allowing 6 hits, which for the White Sox that's like double. So that's like allowing 12 hits for like a regular team, basically.
Yeah.
But so I thought that this would have been a perfect series for him to kind of gain some stuff back. But the Cubs have I picked in my official prediction stock. I picked the Cubs to win the Central in the National League. Obviously, I don't think that's gonna. I think at this point we should basically just kind of assume that the Brewers will, scouting department their way into 90 wins for the foreseeable future.
We can be talking about the Cubs as the last place team in their division at this point.
I know, no, it's ridiculous. I would not have seen that coming at all. But your kind of maybe broad brush preview tonight. This is when the series starts. It's Festa versus Hendricks, which is a pretty uninspiring opening to a series.
I kind of disagree with you here because I think Festa's last 2 starts have shown a lot to Twins fans after a really bad first 2 starts. So like he had 2 really bad first 2 starts of his debut, got sent down, came back, and in 2 outings since has looked really, really good and kind of looked like the top prospect to see. I think this is a real chance for Festa to break out and have like a signature type breakout game for Festa tonight versus the Cubs. For the same reasons that Simon Woods Richardson could have had a really huge game here, I think Festa has a chance to have a really huge game here versus the Cubs to kind of break out and possibly turn into that number 5 starter we've been hoping he would.
Right.
So I could see that happening. I kind of like this matchup a lot for Festa as well because you're kind of facing a Kyle Hendricks that is kind of, going to give up runs. And this is a chance for Festa to go out and be like that guy and be a guy that can go, 6 innings, no run ball, or even 6 innings, 1 run ball or 2 run ball, I think would be a really big outing here for Festa. And so that's kind of my prediction. I think he'll go 6 innings, 2 earned runs. I'm going to say 7 strikeouts is my prediction for Festa tonight. And I think he gets the win.
You think he gets the win? Okay.
That is my prediction for Festa tonight.
I want to see I definitely, not, obviously smaller sample. I want to see just like for like younger pitchers, or younger pitchers with not that many like starting, reps, like big league starting reps. The first thing I really look for is like kind of just fastball placement, not necessarily speed. I mean, he's at 98, which is, good, right? Like that's above average. Not as much speed because like, you use the same, whether your fastball's at 95 or 102, you're going to use it the same way. It kind of holds the same role in terms of how you navigate an at bat and how you kind of construct a repertoire and an arsenal as a pitcher. But I want to see placement. I want him to kind of set up an identity with it that we can see not just in this start, but over the next like few starts, like especially when he does decide to throw it at that top 98, maybe even getting to 99. Can he, is he a painter? Is he someone who is not afraid to throw it dead in the middle in a certain count? Is he does he trust his defense? Is he someone who likes to challenge people over the top? Like, is he someone who, pitches into a strike zone depending on the height and whatnot of the pitcher, or does he kind of keep the same rhythm in between? There's a lot of I want to kind of see how he uses that, right? Like we see, he has a slider and a changeup. those are complementary things that will kind of just formulate themselves as you get more reps. But I want to see the identity that he has with the fastball. And this is, I think, and this is a really good team to do it against, as I believe the Chicago Cubs, if you look at Fangraphs, if I'm looking here, they're 21st in home runs and are 21st in OPS. So this is not a team that's going to punish you that much if you make a mistake. So I want to see some fearless fastball usage tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with that. I think, I'm excited to see what Festa can do tonight versus a weaker offense and versus a team that I think he can really, punish. I think he looked really good versus the Phillies, a series ago when he did that, right? That was his last game. That was his big start. He went 4.1 innings against the Phillies, allowed 1 run and had 7 strikeouts. And then against the Mets, he went 5 innings, had 2 earned runs, had 6 strikeouts. Like, those are 2 good teams in a row that he's had really good performances by after having not good performances versus the Tigers and the Diamondbacks. I would hope that now that he's facing on a weaker team, he's kind of gotten into the majors. He's had a couple good starts. This is his chance to really shine on a scale for Twins fans that I think, we're excited for. And so this is a guy that I'm excited for. So we will see. I am hopeful. I am very hopeful, but right now I'm just hoping that that he has a good outing.
Yeah, the 2 guys that we mentioned, Festa and then Woods Richardson. I'm a big, as Zach knows this, and I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Woods Richardson. I think, the story going into the year with the Twins was this idea of like, okay, so Sonny Gray's leaving, right? Like I thought the Kenta Maeda leaving overall pretty benign. I think.
Yeah, Gray, no Twins fans are really upset about it. Like we knew he was going to stay.
But the Gray thing, in terms of like the rhetoric part of it, was we knew that there were guys that we had that could slide in up spots. So like Ryan taking a slide up, and like Varland taking
Ober.
Ober taking a slide up, Varland taking a slide up, and what have you. The question being is, how does the bottom of the lineup kind of get fleshed out? Obviously, Varland sent down very early, not the answer. And I think for
Chris Paddock never really looked like the answer either. His small.
I think for a while, like people thought the answer was Woods Richardson in that first kind of 3-month kind of stretch. You could see even in his not great starts, you could see things clearly, and then he did pepper that in with really quality 1-run or 2-run starts. And now, maybe surfaced in a little bit, but I'd still think is a very clear person, like in terms of just
he's our clear number 4 right now, and it's not really a question.
He's been the icing on the cake.
Absolutely.
The icing on the Lopez and Ryan and Ober cake. I think last year Ober kind of moved himself into cake territory. If I can keep using that silly sort of way to picture
it. 100%.
Now, so this is the opportunity for Festa to be the sprinkles.
To be like the sprinkles and to be a 5th starter that we need throughout the rest of the stretch.
Right.
And listen, I like Sammy Woods Richardson as well. He's been incredible for us this year. There's still a part of me that's like, is he going to fall back to earth at some point? And I'm starting to we've kind of seen his last couple starts have not been very good. Does Festa have that ability to jump what Woods Richardson has done? And obviously, I love Woods Richardson. Don't get me wrong, but you have to be a little scared of Woods Richardson's numbers a little bit. And so does Festa have that ability to possibly jump Woods Richardson into a playoff spot, into a spot in the playoff rotation? Hopes that we get there, obviously. I'm not going to jump the gun and say we don't, with the thought that we're going to make the playoffs.
Right.
Does Festa jump Woods Richardson at some point for that fourth starter position, or does Woods Richardson hang on? That will be the battle coming down the stretch, is who's going to take their place as the clear number 4. Right now it's Woods Richardson. But if Woods Richardson continues to struggle like he is kind of the last couple of starts, it's going to come a lot clearer if Festa kind of goes on a run. And this could be the start of that run that Festa needs.
Even if, and I apologize to the audience, my computer is totally frozen. So if I look weird at all while I'm talking, then that's okay. And I might even ask Zach to end the recording or close out the show if he can. But so I apologize. Or maybe it's totally normal and I just sound ridiculous. But even if, just for the end of the regular season, if Festa can make the level and jump to that cancels out Wood Richardson, the downturn, if he's gone down this much, does Festa go up this much? Then it all kind of works out in the end. You don't need, you don't need. I think I'm back here on my computer.
No, you've been here this whole time, by the way, just to be clear.
Okay, sweet, cool. Even if you don't necessarily need Festa to go on some Bailey Ober 8 consecutive quality start kind of streak to close out the year. What you really just need him to do is to make up for the ground that Woods Richardson has lost a little bit, which is not a huge bar to reach. And if he reaches it, that's great. But as Zach was pointing out, the kind of hope for him, if he exceeds that, then it's even better. And it gives you more kind of optimism about potential options and combinations going into the playoffs.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm a huge Woods Richardson fan as well. I love what he's done for us this year. But there also is a little concern about is he going to be that guy going forward? And is he going to be that guy? And so I have to look at it Festa was supposed to be that guy that was eventually when we first came to the season, Festa was supposed to be the guy that kind of made that jump early and often into the rotation. It took him a little bit, but he didn't. But he finally is out here. Does he make that jump now? So that's really where it's at. But all of Sam Woods Richardson's numbers just look so Sam Woods Richardson's baseball savant page is not as pretty as Griffin Jax. I'll say that.
Yeah.
No. So I think right now that's kind of where we're at. I'm excited to watch Festa tonight. So the final question of the show.
Yes.
How many wins do the Twins win of these 3 games? In this series, where do the Twins go?
This is in Wrigley. So I'm going to say, I'll say 2 out of 3. And maybe that game that they lose is tonight, Festa, even if Festa's box score is not great because of some kind of blow up at the end, you can see things there. So maybe that is. I feel pretty comfortable saying 2 out of 3, just in terms.
I'm gonna also say 2 out of 3, just because I think Imanaga versus Lopez tomorrow is a little scary for me, in terms of I don't know how we'll do versus them, but I'm gonna say 2 out of 3 as well. I think the one we will lose, if we do lose one this series, will be tomorrow versus Imanaga.
Yeah, no, I can buy that for sure. Because even because Festa tonight, he's going against Hendricks, right? Which is not a super. That's not that's a very easy and comfortable opponent to kind of establish yourself against.
Absolutely, and obviously, Hendricks has been a legend of the game for a very long time, and obviously he's getting washed now, and he's kind of no longer the great starter he once was, but he still is a legend of the game. He still is a legend of the game and stuff, and so to get a win here would be great for Festa. To win against Kyle Hendricks would be great, even if it is a washed Kyle Hendricks. But yes, Molanders, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'll let you close it out for us.
Perfect timing, because my tab that I was trying to click on to get back to the stream is now just hit. So perfect timing. This has been episode 2 of the Bleav in Twins podcast on the Bleav Network. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for allowing us at Bleav to be a part of your week. And
we lost him. So how's it going? I'll finish off. Yeah, thank you for letting us be here. Please subscribe. Please subscribe if you can. Comment. Let us know your thoughts on the Twins. But thank you again. We do really appreciate all that you have done, and Anders is back. I just closed it out for us there, Anders. So,
he did. You stole my job, but I leave for 5 seconds.
I know. I was like, well, I didn't know if you were gonna make it back in time. I was like, yeah. No, we appreciate all of you here. Anders, hopefully we'll have his technical stuff figured out by Thursday. We're hoping to do our shows Monday and Thursday, just to be clear. Monday and Thursday will be our show time. So look for our next episode coming out Thursday. This has been Bleav in Twins episode 2. Good luck to the Twins versus the Cubs. And we are excited to watch the Festa tonight.
Excited. Peace. See you guys. We're excited. Take care. Have a great week. You can catch us Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Obviously, this will be going on YouTube if you're watching us there. And we will see you guys Thursday to recap this series. And we will see you all soon. Thank you for tuning in. Zach, always great to see you.
Always.
Go Twins.